Hey everyone, how's it going? This is Norm Schriever, and today I had the pleasure of interviewing Jett with Golden Bay Mortgage Group. Jay's a really good guy, and he's got a lot of interesting industry experience. And what I loved about our talk is that he's very passionate about educating people, educating his clients, whether they do business with him or not, really. He's looking to empower the public and his clientele and his audience so they make better decisions with their mortgage and finances. So he's one of the good ones, and Golden Bay Mortgage Group is definitely happy to have him. So without further ado, here's Jett. Thanks so much, guys.
How's that? Does that work?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you got Golden Bay in the background there, huh?
Yeah, I work with Dino and the group to pull together my Howard pre-approval process, which is what I take my clients through, and is kind of like my personal stamp or mantra, and I walk people through a pre-approval that teaches them a lot of things. So they're going to learn a lot when they come to me.
That's great. So you actually took some time and effort to systematize that and map it out, huh?
Yeah, I did. And when I started getting coaching is when we really mapped that out and, came across the same ideas that you did, which is that I really care about educating people about a mortgage and teaching them a few things that for some loan agents might be uncomfortable to talk about. So,
interesting. And that's great if it's okay to dive into, because education is something that we all talk about. The two flag words in the industry is service and education. So what does that really mean, right? But I think you hit the nail on the head. It's having uncomfortable conversations that the clients maybe need or the consumers need, but maybe they don't even know they need it or they don't even want it. They're just in a rush to find who's offering the lowest rate. So you're doing them a great service, but it's not always doing yourself or your business a service as well, huh?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And some of the things I come up in education with are the limitations on what really people want to take in, what they can take in, and what they're willing to take in. And then the other thing is just educating them on, if they're willing to take that in, on uncomfortable areas that we're speaking of, or maybe I'm talking to new kids about a budget and how they're going to have to budget it. And then where some of the places or one place that I might lose out on is when I talk to somebody about refinance, when is it really smart to spend or shell out the money to recast that loan and to increase that loan by the closing cost for the interest rate, and some people might do it for $100 and other people might not. And I'm like, the means have to justify the end, in that, does it do what you want it to do in your budget? I have a minimum for myself of $200 a month I want to save each borrower. I can't save them that much. I really don't agree with it. But sure, if you have two young kids and that stands between, $150 stands between them and diapers, then yeah, we need to do this.
Yeah.
Right. And getting into that conversation with them about that is important. Another important thing to discuss with people is how to handle debt. I cannot believe how many people don't realize how to handle a credit card to benefit them and help them through a budget each month, as well as increase their credit score. And I get a lot of time that I spend in that area as well.
So you look at when you sit down with someone, you really look at their picture, their budget, of course, not only their DTI, but what they have going on with their credit cards and what credit issues and what they're paying. And I'm sure you look at their goals as well, right? Because if it's someone who's buying their dream house or retiring in a home, they're going to be there the long haul, versus maybe a first-time buyer who's buying in a marginal area. You think likely 5 years you're going to sell, or you're going to, want to move up when your family grows. Those are all different needs and different conversations, huh?
Yes, and if you want to garnish their admiration and trust, you need to really start right there with, what are your goals? What are your needs? And I do all that I can through the process to restate those for the borrowers so that they're hearing me say them again and again. So they're going, yes, this guy hears what I want. Because I've had too many times where people have come to me and said, let's talk about mortgage, and I'm working with this real estate agent or this person over here, and they keep showing me houses I don't want to see. Have you told them what you want? Yes, I keep telling them what I want. They keep showing me what they want to show me.
Yeah. And of course, the caveat on that is if their budget is, $370,000 and they want the 8-bedroom with the giant swimming pool and a 5-car garage, but that notwithstanding, of course, I hear what you're saying. It's listening to what's important to people. Yeah.
And it could be also as simple as, hey, look, I'm not looking for that. I'm not looking for that ranch style home. I want the 2-story with the spiral staircase.
Yep.
And you keep showing me this flat ranch style home. Yep. So, that's real important. And then once you garnish that, that admiration and the fact that you're going to do what they want you to do, then they start to listen and you can start to educate, because another part of the education is teaching them about a loan and what that is, because there's the whole thing of a loan, its amortization, the interest rate, and how does that work? And then how does that work in a larger economic market? So people will say, hey, the stock market's doing well, so interest rates must be doing well too. Say, well, wait a minute, I need to teach you a little basics in finance and how the two markets work against each other, and educate them on interest rate. And then that leads right into the discussion about, well, hey, rates have actually 3 types. There's the interest rate that the banks want in this economic environment. And then there's what you may want lower than what they want. And that to get there, you're going to have to pay discount points. And I introduce them to that. And I also introduce them to, if you take a higher interest rate because your budget will allow it and the payment isn't all that bad, you actually reduce your closing costs because the lender gives you money. And when I see the light go on with people for that, it's really exciting, because I realize that, even people that have bought 2 or 3 homes and refinanced a couple of times, and no one ever explained to them that interest rates can either take more money from you depending on what rate you choose, or it can give you money depending on what rate you choose and why. And once they learn that, they're going, hey, does this work in the car industry as well? And I'm like, yes, it does. That's why they're willing to,
And it's sort of like a seesaw, and you could choose, roughly where you're going to be on that seesaw, huh?
Yeah, because they go, well, you know what? I don't want to pay $50,000 for that car. I'd rather pay $45,000. Okay, are you going to finance it? Yes. Well, then they give you an interest rate that the lender's going to give them the other $5,000 that you're not going to pay on it, and they cave in and give you the car at your price, and you say, I got it cheaper.
Isn't that what people focus on? Like you said, the car price, they'll shop around town, they'll research, they'll beat up every salesperson just for the price. And then when it's the financing, half the time they don't even look at the rate. They just look at the payment, don't even know how many years it's for, and just sign away. And that's the number that really matters, right? I always say, and you could confirm this, you're not buying the home, you're buying the money that's buying the home, right? And that's the big number. Yeah.
Yep. And I've always shopped for cars with cash, and you walk in and they dig their heels in. Nope, this is what we want. We're not dealing with it. And because the first question actually, well, will you be financing this? No, I'm using cash. Okay, then we're done. This is the price. No haggling.
Yeah. So whenever you get your Lamborghini, your Ferrari, your Bentley, you're always just going cash, huh? Smart man.
Yeah, more like the Kia Soul, the Chevy Bolt and Bolt.
Good. It gets you point A to point B. People lose a lot of money or waste a lot of money on cars. That's another conversation, but they waste a lot of money on all sorts of stuff, I guess, these days.
Well, and that's a conversation I have with people, because when we get back to the budgeting side of things, one of the things I do is I say, hey, look, you have to be careful, because you can be house poor
Mm.
and or you can be car poor. So many people will come to me with a $700 car payment a month and want to buy a house, and they're a single person and they don't have two incomes. And I'm like, I'm really sorry, but you've got credit cards, multiple credit cards, and this auto payment.
It's probably
It's
student
just,
loans these days. Almost everyone has student loans, right?
yes, and that is another one. And actually, over the past 15 years, the student loans have started to rival the car loans in really dashing hope for or a mortgage until you get that in order. And
Isn't
so,
it
yeah.
ironic too that it's completely counterproductive where, you're supposed to take out these student loans and it guarantees you a better life and more income and a higher station in life. And then when they sit down with you, it's actually holding people back from getting qualified or how much they could qualify for.
Well, and really, my finance degree cost me, and and granted, it was only a 4-year degree, but it cost me under $10,000. I see the banks will let somebody spend $30,000 to get a 4-year degree, and I don't think they should allow that. They should say no. You want a 4-year degree? Here's what you should spend and no more, and we're not going to let you do that.
Did
But
you say
banks do that.
just to clarify here? I'll tap the microphone. Did you say 30,000? Because it's about, even just a state school or a normal private. Some of them are like 40, 50,000 a year. It's
Oh
insane.
yeah, I was being just kind of mild about it.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
right.
Another reason not to have kids, huh?
Yeah, but I still come across some students who were very savvy and they got through on a shoestring through college,
Yeah.
and therefore they're in a good position to do what they want to do. But I do see the others that have overspent and enjoyed that money, and now it's time to pay the piper, and it's tough. It really is. And the same thing with the cars. And I've had people that are so adamant about buying a house. They say, I get it, Jay, thanks, the light's going on, I'm getting rid of this lease, or I'm getting rid of this car. And they come back to me in 3 to 6 months. They've gotten rid of the car, they shed that debt, so now their debt ratio can handle a much larger payment. They can shop in the range they want to.
That's fantastic. So the education you give them really pays off. And I know that's not everyone. Some people don't even have the attention span to take in the education that you're offering for free, which is, a shame, but you can't please everyone. So with your career or your mortgage business now, your book of business, who is it that you ideally like to help, or who is it that you're focusing on reaching right now?
Well, I find that I get most excited about the clients that have these needs and need to work a little bit on it, and that these things actually come to light and excite them. And then they go perform what they need to do and come back to me and say, I'm ready, or not even come back, work with me. So I have clients that I've worked with, many clients that I've worked with for 3, 6, 9, 12 months to get themselves prepared and ready. And when they make it, I've got a client for life. I've got clients that I'm now doing their children's loans.
Yeah.
And it's exciting to see them actually reach the goals that they want. And it's great that they feel like they can call me, work through this, and come back to me. And I think that's where I get fulfillment.
Yeah, and it's you set yourself up as their advocate, and it's not just transactional, but you're really there for them before, during, after. I'm sure whatever questions they have. And that's where the trust comes in, right? That's the real commodity. That's the real value. And once you have that and they know that you're looking out for them, like you said, they're probably so appreciative and they just love working with you. And to see when they get their keys or when they close on their refinance, it's got to be pop the champagne time. It's got to be that much more fulfilling. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So those are the clients I like the best. I help I help everybody that comes in the door, try to do the best I can for everybody. And some come along and they're in a hurry. They want to get something done. They just want to know, am I prepared? Can I get this done? This is my goal. And when I hear that, I put my head down and find out and tell them the answer they need and move forward with them as expediently or as quickly as I possibly can.
Yeah.
But they're the ones I like are the ones that are asking me more and more questions.
Yeah.
Hate to bother you, I got another question. Never a bother. Or this question, it might be really silly. No, there's no silly question. Fire away.
Yeah. And that's your passion for the business, and that's where the education comes from. And so, speaking of that, tell me a little bit about you, where you're from, and then eventually how you got into the business.
Sure. I, like many other people, I'm a transplant. I was born in Detroit, Michigan, and my parents, after my dad got out of the Navy and was discharged, of all places, in San Diego, traveled through California to get home. And he said, honey, pack the kid up. We're going to California. This place is awesome.
A lot better than Detroit, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we landed in San Jose, and I spent my from the age of 2 till now, I've spent in growing up in San Jose, and then I didn't fall far from the tree. I went to college in Sac State and stayed here in Sacramento, and this is it. And actually, after getting out of school, what I did was looked for a home here in Sacramento. I asked myself if I wanted to stay in the business I was in, which I had done a stint with the California State Lottery. I had started a window washing business, and I said, well, I really should probably put my degree in finance and marketing to work for myself instead of just wash windows. So I sold the business and jumped into this in '92. And so now here we are, 30 years next year. So
let me ask you a couple questions. Window washing, were you the guy on the scaffold and the ropes? You were actually doing it, or?
It didn't get to that point. I did not do big commercial buildings, although I had an uncle that did. And he left memories in my mind about that. And he worked in San Francisco. But no, I did ground level stuff. Like, Arden Fair was an open shopping mall. And when Westfield bought it, they upgraded the whole place and enclosed it and had beautiful shops in there. All of them had glass from floor to ceiling. And I went in there and I got a lot of those businesses. So I had a ton of business there. And then I did some small commercial buildings all around Sacramento. So I was washing windows a lot, but never had to get up on a scaffold or tie myself in. And it was very rewarding, actually. I was surprised at what I was able to sell that book of business for when I left.
That's great. I was going to ask, of course, if there was anything crazy you saw in the windows while you were up there, but I guess that's a moot point,
Yeah, it is.
So how about the lottery? Any tips on how to win the Powerball, or any like hidden little behind the scenes anecdotes of working for the lottery?
Yeah, that was interesting. When the lottery was born, they came over to Sac State and said, we're going to need a lot of help. Who's in the finance department here that'll come over and work in our finance department and help us? And once I got there, they were willing to let me work full time, even though I was a full-time student. And I started getting involved in bringing software over that they could use for accounting purposes. And as we did that and people won and we watched them, we started to track people. And just in the first 5 years, we realized that actually winning all that money did more harm than it did good. And that was
their life before and after, right?
Yes, because they look at what they did. They had a stable job. They had a stable life with a pattern. All of a sudden, they were given all of this money. They let go of the job. What do you do with all that time and money on your hands? And you start to watch people. And some of the stories were sad about how they were taken for their money, or how they, wandered off into drugs or alcohol.
Your marriage breaks up, depression, bankruptcy. It happened to my brother actually growing up, and it was not a happy ending. We'll put it at that. So, but yeah, fascinating. I'm a huge numbers geek. I'm like such a stats geek, and so for me, like following that stuff is pretty interesting. Um, yeah. But so how then after school and after those two careers, and then you went right from the window business into mortgage, is that correct?
Yeah, I was actually it wasn't right directly in. What had ended up happening is while I was doing the window washing, I also did a short stint for the Better Business Bureau as a sales representative, and I was going around to all these brokerage firms, and they were opening the door and going, "No problem, we'll sign up." You know, where I'd walk into a retail store and they're like, "Well, the economy's kind of slow, maybe not. I don't know. Come back next week." These guys were all in, decked out in three-piece suits, and they were like, "Oh yeah, where do I here? Can I give you a check today?" And they'd sign right up, and I'm going, "Wow!" So I walked in, and there were two women running a brokerage firm off of the El Camino, and one of them said, "You really ought to get into this business, and in real estate mortgage lending." And I thought, what does it take? She said, "Well, you need your standard real estate license." So I said, "Really?" She said, "Yeah, give me a call if you ever get your license." So I walked out the door. 3 months later, I came back with my license and said, "Hey, Deborah, I'd really like to work for you." She says, "Who are you?" I said, "I'm the guy that came over looking for membership from the Better Business Bureau. You said I should get in the business." So I went and researched it, and I agreed with you, and now I'm here. And she said, "Great, sit down. I'll give you a desk, get you going, and let you know what's happening." So I did retail loan agent for 1 year. And at that time, subprime was something that people were just thinking about in 92, 93. Huh?
What year about was this?
93, 92 to 93. Okay. And I had a guy come through for a company called Old Stone Credit Corporation. And he said, "Hey, have you ever thought about going into wholesale as an account executive?" I said, "Well, what's that?" And he says, "Well, you go around to brokerage firms and you ask them for their loans, if they have anything that would fit our loan programs, and they would submit them to our underwriters." And I said, "No, I never thought about that." He said, "Well, why don't you interview with me and my regional VP and see if you'd like the job?" And I did, and I liked it. And I spent another 7 years in that. And then I did probably 18 years, 17, 18 years in wholesale repping before the economy hit the floor in 2007, right? We woke up March 2007 and everybody's values went to hell. And that was the beginning of a really rough time.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of smart people leave this industry, people that were going to be needed, because how are we going to wrangle all of these foreclosures? What was a short sale? We just started to think about short sales at that point in time. And I asked myself, we're losing so many people. Am I going to do the same? Because I was considering going back to school, retool, get my master's, come back out, go in another direction. And a lot of people were doing that or retiring. And I said, no, I think I'm going to get in the trenches and really help borrowers understand what they're going through.
Wow.
And so I did. I went back into retail, back into the trenches, never realizing how hard it was going to be and how bad it was going to be. But I had some really meager years where I was actually selling with my real estate license. I was selling myself as a real estate agent, and I said, "Look, come with me, let me represent you for the purchase, and I'll do the loan for free."
Yeah.
They said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I'm a loan agent too. I can actually do the same paperwork along the way as we give a real estate contract to the sellers for acceptance. I can start to work on getting all the documents I need for your loan. So let's get you pre-approved now and get you shopping, but then we'll do the loan. I'll do the loan documentation right alongside with the purchase contract, and I'll give that to you for absolutely nothing in the effort to earn my commission from the selling agent on the sale of this."
So that was your value. That was how you separated yourself from because I was there in Sacramento during those times, and I had actually bought. I was a realtor and had bought into a small mortgage company, real small company, like 3 months before that crash. Here's a check for my life savings, and certainly never saw that money back. But I know how hard it was in those days. So what I hear from you too, which is amazing, is when everyone was getting out of the industry, you were getting back into retail, and you were doing it for noble reasons because your passion was really to help people. That's pretty rare. I mean, everyone was scrambling in those days. Just how am I going to make my house payment? How am I going to keep, my income and maintain a modicum of quality of life? So I think it's really actually special that you got back in during that time for those reasons.
Well, and two of the most rewarding conversations during that time that I would have with people, that to me really helped me move on, was seeing the light come on when I said, look, foreclosure is not the death.
Yep.
Here's how you take on foreclosure, and here's how you get past it for home ownership later. And then also, home ownership is still worthy. In other words, your house isn't worth anything today, but it will be tomorrow. So there were a lot of people where one income was lost. They could afford to be in the house, but they looked at the house and they say, well, I've got a loan for 300,000. They're telling me it's worth only 150,000. My investment isn't worth anything. I now want out. I want to do a short sale and get out. And I would say, well, wait a minute, have you kept the house in good shape? Yes. Can you afford to make the mortgage payment? Yes, but it's not worth anything. Why would I make that? You'll make that because come 2012, 13, 14, 15, values are going to start going back up through the roof, and you're going to see more value than you ever thought you had come back to you. You just have to be able to wait. It's the person that lost both incomes, can't make the mortgage payment, that should probably let the house go, move on, and let that work its way through your credit. Yeah. And those conversations were great conversations, and I was afforded that. This is the big key. My wife had a stable job working for Gap Incorporated through those years. And she could say to me, Jay, it's all right that you're barely surviving. I will take care of us. You go do those things and feel good about them because I've got you covered here at home. Yeah. So that allowed me. If I had been by myself, no matter how much I wanted to help people, I probably would have to have left for an industry that I could have, that would keep me, living.
The banking side, just to have a steady paycheck or something. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting too, those times. I remember the sky felt like it was falling because it was. I mean, the whole system, it wasn't just a normal change or a cycle. The whole system broke down and didn't work. But I think the thing we could learn looking back, of course, is this too shall pass. And no matter what, the season's going to change, things are going to come back. It was inconceivable at that time. But the big difference was people then didn't put money down for their homes, right? So when you're talking about their home, they owed 300 and it was worth 180, why would I keep it? If they had even put 10,000, 15,000 down, they probably would have been, apt to hold on to it. They have more skin in the game. So I think these days with the pandemic and what maybe is coming, maybe not coming, strange times ahead in real estate, I have no idea. But I think it'll be totally different, and maybe we even learn from our mistakes in the past.
Absolutely. And, it gave a lot of credence and importance to having the budget conversation with people, because the other thing I came across a lot of were homes that were handed back to banks because people had, you're right, gotten into the home and they were house poor because the mortgage was taking all their money. So they didn't even have enough money at the end of the month to buy, 10 gallons of paint to paint the house.
Yeah.
And so it deteriorated. And I saw a lot of homes that were obviously sold to somebody at such a high price or such a large mortgage that they didn't work in repairs and maintenance on their house. So when I have a conversation with people, I say it's important to make sure you buy a house that doesn't leave you house poor, so that you have money to not only keep the house up and in good repair so that the value is there when you want to refinance or sell, but you want to be able to still do the things you want to do. If you like going to the movies every Sunday and having a steak barbecue, you should be able to do that. Look at this and work it into your budget so that you're getting a mortgage that allows you to live the lifestyle you love. You'll love your house even more for it, and you will take care of your house.
That's amazing. Yeah. So you look at the big picture, like we said, and really are their financial advocate where, hey, there's the house, but remember there's today, there's tomorrow, there's maintenance, there's, what quality of life do you want to still have? So I think that definitely does a great service to people. Yeah. And so it was probably, it probably felt very good though, when things started to normalize a little bit after, 4 or 5 years and all of a sudden the uptick. And where were you at that point with your book of business? And you were still in retail lending, of course.
Yeah. And yeah, it just started, I have to say that really from 2010 all the way till now, it's just been a rise of business and good business and people coming in and being excited. And I've seen everything go from, running from your house to running 2 homes. And of course, we have right now, supply and demand is so off because we really are still coming back from that 2008 when we talk about production in homes for sale. Builders are really just arriving this year with new homes popping, new home divisions popping everywhere, because what happened is everything came to a grinding halt. And then once they started to actually get money and develop again, they had to go through the process of purchasing, subdividing, getting all the permits. They've been non-existent for so long, and it exacerbated the problem of so many people whose economical situation is good now. They've got a great job they can buy, but the housing just isn't there for them, that we've been waiting for them to arrive, and they're really just here now. We're starting to really see a lot of home developments with homes available. So it's exciting, and it's going to keep going. Now supply and demand are going to meet each other, and it's going to be actually a really nice environment moving forward for purchases.
And I hope so, because inventory can't get much lower, especially in places like Sacramento. I mean, last year, this time, I think it was 1.1 months worth of inventory, and now it's like 0.4 or, something ridiculous. It's like almost all-time low. But to your point, the builders are coming back, more people. The pandemic made a lot of people hit pause on thinking about selling. But I think the spring and summer will be a lot more robust with people letting go of their homes, selling their homes. And yeah, so hopefully we'll get a little bit of normalcy. So how about you and Golden Bay Mortgage? When did you come on board with them?
I came on board with them just as we started to realize that COVID-19 was going to be a pandemic and it was going to be an issue. So I started my conversation with them in March of last year. And then as April, May came around, we realized we were going to have to hunker down. I was already in process of making that move. So I've always been used to having an office wherever I go.
Yeah.
And just as I came on board, it was like, oh, well, that isn't going to happen. So my home office has been revamped and set up, and I've been using it ever since. And so, yeah.
The big map of California, you have all the books to make you look smart. I don't know if you read them or not, but I'm not going to quiz you,
Well, I got to tell you that the majority of these books right here are about either hiking California, such as this one, or they're about fly fishing California, which are all these that talk about fishing. So majority of my books over here are not about finance like some people might think, but I had quite a bit of time to do both through '08, '09. So a lot of the library is about that. And then there's personal relationship, which is
Yeah.
important to me. Communication are the majority of the other books.
Interesting. So, fly fishing. Let's talk about something way more important than mortgage. Fly fishing and hiking and cycling too. Those are some of your passions, right?
Yeah, I cycled throughout my whole life. So I spent a lot of time challenging myself in the Santa Cruz Mountains. Being from San Jose, right at the edge of those mountains, I would take off and go hit those mountains and be gone for hours, as well as ride over to Santa Cruz quite a bit on the old Highway 1 in my teens. So when I got here to Sacramento and they had the bike trail, I just raged because it was the most wonderful thing to be off the roads, away from the cars, and be able to ride as hard as I want.
It's
And
so flat, right? So you were probably just going for, 30, 40, 50 miles, huh?
well, yeah, and when I went to Sac State, I didn't have a parking permit. I had a bike locker. So I was living in Discovery Bay, and I would get on my bike and ride to Sac State, have my classes, and then just ride on out to Folsom, then
Sure.
back again. I wasn't making, I had no money. So I really had lots of time. I couldn't really put gas in a vehicle, but I could ride a bike. And believe me, it was enjoyable.
Oh, that's great. And that's still nice that, I mean, and Northern California is just unbelievable. I lived there almost 10 years, but I was from Connecticut, or I am from Connecticut originally. But NorCal, the hiking and the fishing and the camping and outdoors, never ending the amount of stuff you could explore. So that's cool that you still take advantage of it.
Well, and we've got the American rivers, the Middle Fork, the South Fork, and the North Fork right here. And business was very, very slow from 2008 to 2010. And I said, I need to pick up a hobby because I go crazy.
Yeah.
And my wife says, well, go look around. And I found fly fishing, and I read a Curtis Creek Manifesto is a book that every beginner should read, and it's in cartoon, and it teaches you the basic foundation for fly fishing. And after that, I started to search the internet, learn all I could, and then I said, it's time to get a lesson. Took some lessons, found out that one of the oldest fly fishing federation groups in America are right here in Sacramento. Sacramento Association of Fly Fishers, right here, one of the oldest groups around. I joined them and started to learn from these older guys how to fly fish and where some of the best places were. And I really enjoyed hiking and foraging the rivers. It's been great.
That's awesome. Yeah, and it's so nice. I mean, you guys work so hard over there, and it's such an intense business, whether it's good or bad, that it's so nice to have that when you're off of work, that sanctuary, that happy place where you're unwinding and you're not thinking about mortgages, and maybe get out to a place where you don't get cell phone service, so you can't answer calls and emails even if you wanted, huh?
Well, yeah, exactly. And when you told me about Costa Rica and being out in the mornings and the evenings, I really related to that because the most magical times to be fly fishing are at dawn and at sunset. And there's been many a time my family, they're really upset with me because I'll come in hours after dark being in the middle of nowhere, and they're like, we were really worried about you. It's like, but it was so beautiful. I mean, watching the sunset, I just couldn't tear myself away to get back to civilization. It was just really beautiful.
That's great. Yeah, yeah. And we definitely have a lot of that in Costa Rica, a lot of fishing, not fly fishing, of course, but this is, I mean, for nature and adventures outdoor, this is probably the place in the world. So I need to do more of that. Too much sitting here at the desk and work. But one of these days, I'll travel around Costa Rica a lot more while I'm here. Yeah. But so tell me a little bit more about Golden Bay Mortgage. What attracted you? Because you're very seasoned. You had seen retail, wholesale. You knew everyone in town. I'm sure every shop in town. So what really attracted you to Golden Bay? Why was it such a good fit?
They have a good processing team, and I like their process from origination all the way to funding, and the support was there, and I like that. Secondarily, both Renee and Cameron are just forward thinkers when it comes to technology, tools, and the ability to garnish more loans and process them through marketing, sales, and being a part of your community. And when I heard all of those things, they resonated with me. And then they really liked my educational piece as well and welcomed that. And so I decided that making the move over to them was important. The other thing too is my income can fluctuate more. In other words, if I want to give away my services, I can do that. I'm not going to get flack from the company I work for doing a transaction because it makes sense, even though it might not make me the most dollar that I can earn. And
So
that was important.
you know, what I'm hearing is their values as a company, as people, and your values really are aligned, huh? Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And so how has it been from, I know you got in right when the pandemic started, and now we're almost a year, which is crazy, into it, and nothing has changed. So how have you adapted? I know you're still working from home some, but what do you see for the near future with Golden Bay Mortgage?
Well, what I think is going to happen is we're going to be moving more into a sales mode from a refinance mode. I think that it's just, if we really want to get further down the road quickly into the economy and get it up and rolling as quickly as possible as we all get vaccinated, what we're going to end up seeing then is we're going to have to be willing to take on a little inflation. Inflation equals higher interest rates, because everybody in the finance world doesn't want to see it inflate really bad, and us go back to the Feds and Paul Volcker days where they were raising interest rates so high to slow that big economic ball down. So they'll probably raise rates a little bit. So refinances are not going to be the thing that they were in 2001 or early 2021 or all of 2020. But what we will see is, with a modest increase in interest rates, we'll still see people looking to purchase. So the appetite for a new house or a resold house is going to definitely be there. And like you said earlier, with us getting vaccinated, people are going to see the economy get better. They're going to want to move. They're going to want to open their door and let people look at the house and buy it. So selling is going to pick up and buyers are going to pick up. So we're going to see a lot of that market happen. And my hope is that they'll give me an office and a desk over there so I can get back to going to an establishment to work. And we'll see the market really shift to a lot of sales.
Yeah, I think you're right. Hopefully it'll be the roaring 20s, just like after the Spanish flu of 1819 or something. But yeah, I think for a lot of different reasons, not just the rubber band snapping of the pandemic and people being released into normality again when they get vaccinated and when things get better, but other trends that existed before the pandemic, like baby boomers aging, and maybe they want to sell their house or move into assisted living or move into multi-generational. And then of course the millennials are of age now to really buy. And so for you, that should be perfect, since you love to educate people. I'm sure you love working with first-time buyers, like you said. So you have a bright future over there at Golden Bay. You're going to be a busy man, I think.
I would like to be. I think I've got a really solid 10 years left in my career, and I really want to go out in the highest gear and with a bang that I can, because I really feel like I'm doing my best and feel my best when I'm working at a good pace and doing good business. So I'm looking forward to that. And I think really that what we're going to see is an opportunity to get people into homes that they couldn't. And that's a good thing.
That's a great thing, yeah. Well, the industry is lucky to have you. Golden Bay Mortgage is lucky to have you, and your clients are definitely lucky to have you. So, Jett, thank you so much for being with us today, huh? We really appreciate your time.
Oh no, I appreciate yours. I was glad to meet you, and I have enjoyed my conversations with you immensely. So thank you for actually taking an interest in me and taking the time with me today.